My name is Susan Goertzen. I'm tour manager here on the Van Horn on Ministers Island, and I'm going to explain to you what you will see when you come to visit. Ministers Island was the summer home of Sir William Van Horn, who built the railway across Canada. The early settlers on Ministers Island were the Passamaquoddy First Nation people. They lived here in the summer and moved into the mainland in the winter. In the late 1700s, the Loyalists came. The Loyalists came to St. Andrews from the States, lived there, but with them they brought a minister, an Anglican minister, Reverend Samuel Andrews. He didn't build his house in town, he built it here on the island, and it is still here to this day, and that's why it's called Ministers Island. Then the Van Horns came in the late 1800s. William Van Horn came here in 1891, saw the place, loved it, and decided to build a summer cottage. So between 1891 and 1902, he managed to build this 50-room house, plus 21 other buildings. Gas house, laundry, carpenter shop, slaughterhouse, the barn. He had everything he needed right here on the island. Now, William Van Horn was actually born in Illinois in 1843, died in 1915 at the age of 72. When he was 14, he quit school and he went to work for the Illinois Railway. Within 3 months, he became the telegraph officer. Then in 1881, he came to Canada as the general manager of the Canadian Pacific Railway. So between 1881 and 1885, he managed to lay over 2,900 miles of track through land that no man thought possible, which was mostly the Great Lakes and the Rocky Mountains. And he did it in as short a time as anyone would think. Completion of the railway was done in 1885, and they had a ceremony in Craigalatchie, BC, just outside Revelstoke, to commemorate the completion of the railway. Now, William Van Horn was married to Lucy Hurd. He had 2 children. He had a son, Benny. Benny had really no interest in the island. And Benny had a son, Billy. Billy, again, no interest. He died at the age of 39. Billy had a daughter, Beverly Ann, and I will mention her again in a minute. But William Van Horn had a daughter, Adeline, known as Miss Addie. She loved this place, and when William Van Horn passed away in 1915, she did inherit the island. She continued on as he had done, living here in the summer and in their Montreal home in the winter. And when she passed away in 1941, she left the island to her great niece, Beverly Ann. Now, Beverly Ann was only 9 years old, so really couldn't look after an island. So the Royal Trust Company for Montreal, they stepped in and looked after it for the family. Then in 1961, when she was an adult, she decided to sell. So at that point, it was sold out of the family. A couple of owners later, in 1977, the gentleman who owned it then decided he had had enough, he wanted to sell. Didn't have much luck, so he held an auction in the living room of the house and sold off most of the original artifacts, most of that being the furnishings. 3 days into the auction, the province of New Brunswick stepped in and put a stop to it. They did buy it at that time. And since then, it has been declared a national and a provincial historic site. So it was closed down until 1992, and then they opened it for tours. Tours were done twice a day through the summer months, up until 2004. Then a new group of people took over. They are known as Van Horn Estates on Ministers Island. They are non-profits, so they can fundraise, they can accept donations. So if you are in the house, you will notice we have gone from an empty house up to a fully furnished 50-room house. We also put a $2.2 million restoration into the barn with the help of the governments, and that is quite spectacular. So that is a bit of the history. Around the house we have a few other buildings. Down below us we have the bathhouse. Bathhouse is where William Van Horn spent a lot of time relaxing. Now, he actually only slept 4 hours a night. He didn't require much sleep. The rest of the time he was out wandering around the island, painting, working, things like that. There's many paintings in the house that were done by Sir William Van Horn, and a lot of them were painted in the bathhouse. But when he started building, he took the sandstone from the beach below the bathhouse. There, when he had finished, he had a 50-foot square hole, 8 feet deep. He decided to turn it into a swimming pool. What would happen is the tide would come in, fill it up with water, tide would go out, water would stay in the pool. This is the Bay of Fundy, so that always happens. And for the 6 hours of low tide, he had his own semi-heated by the sun and rock swimming pool. It has filled up with sand, but you do see the outline when you're down there. Behind the house, we have the gas building, windmill, and carriage house. The carriage house does have an original carriage in it. Gas building was carbide pellets and water combined to make carbide gas or acetylene gas, and from there it was piped underground into the house for the lighting. Windmill was for the water. There they had a small kerosene engine inside. It would start up a larger kerosene engine. That would go 127 feet down below to the well, take the water from the well over to the 10,000-gallon holding tank that was buried underground, and from there it was piped, air over water pressurized, into the house for the running water. Now the holding tank, which you don't get to see because it is buried 20 feet down, it's a railway car. He knew where to get one. So those buildings are all open to the public, and we also suggest you visit the barn. It was built in 1898, finished in 1899, and it is quite an amazing structure to see.